The reason why we have a beautiful chime is it's an invitation to enter into this moment. You know, at the beginning of the meeting, we're actually at a threshold where our whole day that we've just experienced is still warming our back. And we're about to step into and toward this moment, this practice. And so this chime is a wonderful way of inviting us to step through, step into this new moment, step into this practice, step into the gentle awareness that coming to a recovery-oriented meeting is an enormous act of courage, self-regard. It expresses an aspiration of positive intention, wise understanding, deep, deep inner wisdom and healing. So I'd like to begin our time together on that celebratory note. It is no small thing to be here. And because you are here, you belong. Welcome everyone to the Spokane Sangha and Recovery Dharma. For the month of November, we are exploring dana, which means generosity. And for the last several sessions, I have been focused on bringing forward generosity as an act of receiving, or said another way, the way we receive is an act of generosity. And I've been sharing with you that to be able to receive kindness and goodness, compliments, praise, is generous because you actually give a person who's praising you an opportunity to be giving. It reinforces the goodness, the good feelings. When we receive goodness with gratitude, with appreciation, when we reveal a little bit of softening, maybe even risk a little vulnerability, we give to the other person a sense of connection, trust, joy. It feels good to be received. But it isn't always easy to receive. Many of us have been hardened by life, by trauma, by experiences associated with negative habit energy. One of those negative habits is creating stories of self-protection. I'm not going to let anything bad in. And so we build up all kinds of armor, but in the process of building that armor, we also don't let anything good in. And so when good things come, it's awkward. We don't know what to do. So a typical response to that awkwardness is to reject it, dismiss it, not let it penetrate. And when we slowly start to soften that armor, slowly start to peel it away, and maybe even risk exposing that tender heart, bodhicitta. See, we even have Chuck who knows to growl. It's scary to do that. Gonna bark at it. Don't wanna. But when we do that just a little bit and we receive, we soften, we open, we heal. And one of the things that we're healing, this isn't just a practice to feel good and to be nice to someone. This is a practice for ourselves to build and strengthen ego integrity. Every one of us, I'm sure, has a pretty aggressive inner critic. I know I do. And my inner critic, my immature ego, is a light sleeper. It's ready, on the ready to wake up and let me have it with all of its wearisome storylines. All of the things that stir up my self-doubt and insecurity, all of the things that make me feel hardened, self-protecting. And to put that immature ego of mine down a little bit, it's an intentional practice to receive genuine praise as a way of encouraging me to keep going when I feel doubt, as a way of reminding me that right beside all of my unskillfulness, all of my misdeeds, all of my confusions and regrets, I'm also this person that has many positive qualities, many good qualities. The sum of me is both light and dark. But we live in a modern society that has a habit of emphasizing the dark and diminishing the light. And so to receive that light is an act of strengthening our ego integrity. And the reason why we want to be able to do this, friends, is not just to get better at receiving the good stuff, but becoming more neutral when we receive the criticism, the negative. To risk not hardening back up when the disapproval comes, when the challenges come. When the positive things come, our immature ego is very quick to dismiss. But when the negatives come, our immature ego gets super defensive. And sometimes it's because what we're hearing in the negative is true. And it hurts. And it quickly becomes inflated and exaggerated. And we haven't learned to practice, well, that's true. What else is true? That's the practice. I'll tell you a funny story. One time I was in a store and I sat down on a display couch because I was nursing and I was nursing my infant. And this woman came up to me and she said, "Excuse me, are you that baby's grandmother?" And I'm like, what year is this? And I just said, no, I'm her mama. And I just laughed. It was so funny. And at the same time, I was also kind of hurt because I have white hair, and I've had gray hair, white hair for a very, very long time. I look older. And so that was true. I look older, and I was an older mom. I was 41 when my youngest was born. So to some people, I look old. That is true. And it hurts a little, but what else is true? I'm incredibly energetic. I have a lot of strength. I think in a former life I must have been an oxen because man, I can labor. That's all true too. So the point is that I didn't have to get defensive, nor did I have to get all that deflated because I didn't need to be intimidated by what was true. I had enough strength in my ego integrity to go, yeah, that's true. I look old to some people. To some people, I could be this infant's grandmother nursing her. Wow. And a whole lot else is true too. An act of generosity is to work on our defensive posturing when we're receiving information that we may not like. And I'll give you a hint. We're often most defensive about the things that are true and that we are highly sensitive about. If someone were to say to me, Julia, I cannot stand how purple your skin is. That is just such a stupid color. Why would I get defensive about anything like that? It's completely untrue. So I would just be more puzzled and curious than anything else. But if someone were to say to me in a biting tone or in an accusational way something that was really, really true, something that I felt really sensitive about, Julia, your writing is way too floral. That, yikes, that's got some history there. That's got some trauma for me. That's got some wounding. So it's sensitive to touch. And I'm working on not being so defensive about that kind of critique. And my generosity in receiving that is to not get defensive, not project any anger, not dismiss the person outright. To receive this criticism, to receive this perspective, and say, okay, I'm going to think about that for a minute. Help me understand why that upsets you. That hurts my feelings a little bit, and I'm going to take some time to hold my feelings. Receiving praise and not deflecting or dismissing is an act of generosity. Receiving criticism and not blaming or getting defensive is also an act of generosity. And I'm not suggesting that you don't defend yourself when somebody is truly coming at you with an accusation. What I'm suggesting is to start paying attention to the initial reactivity inside and maybe insert a pause. And that is such a generous gift. We're living in a time where anger is right there at the surface. People are unpracticed and they're unskillful. So if we can practice within ourselves, what an extraordinary gift you're offering to your families and friends, your co-workers and communities, to just turn down the defensiveness by a single degree matters. Recently somebody said to me, Julia, you are so not compassionate, nor are you wise. Wow. Would you look at that, friends? And Chuck just gave a little growl because he's on my side, he's my new cheerleader. Thanks, Chuck. Wow, look at that. I'm neither compassionate nor wise. And you know what, friends? Absolutely true. And not the whole truth. And such an invitation to cultivate more compassion for the individual who slung that arrow, and to practice more wisdom for afflicted minds who feel like this is the way of communication and connection. So let's take a few minutes of silence and turn the gaze inward, and with as gentle an approach as you can, just sneaky peek at your own capacity to be defensive. And see if you can get curious about the conditions that arouse, really deep reactive defensiveness versus other conditions that you might feel defensive, but it's okay. And what are the conditions where somebody can say something to you and you don't feel defensive at all? It's easy to receive the critique. Friends, this week we're going to be exploring the defensive nature that lives in all of us as being human. And we're going to explore it in a way that endeavors to understand the conditions of when we're being defensive in a self-protective way that is unskillful, and when we're being defensive in a self-protective way that's highly skillful. There's both. And so it's not about making being defensive a bad thing. It's simply endeavoring to understand its conditions so that we can become more skilled, more present, so that we can strengthen and mature that ego integrity, that inner critic, so that we can become truly instruments of peace. And with that, I'd like to end our practice with a dedication of merit. And I've been reading a particular prayer, The End of Suffering in the Great Bell Chant by Thich Nhat Hanh. But tonight I'm inspired to read something else. And what I'm inspired to read is from this book. And this is by Thich Nhat Hanh. This is the book I mentioned earlier, Go Slowly, Breathe, and Smile. And this is a gentle reminder for anybody who's new to the Buddhist practice. We always begin a practice with an intention, and we end the practice dedicating the merit that we've achieved here. So the intention of our practice today was to recognize that being here is courageous. It's full of self-regard and care. And to practice, it just elevates all of that, all of your courage, all of your self-regard and care by being here, listening, by sharing, by contemplating and reflecting. This just amplifies the effort. And in a Buddhist practice, we don't keep that just for ourselves. The Buddhist practice is all about recognizing the ways that we are interconnected. And so whatever goodness I may be receiving, it ripples out into the world whether I'm aware of it or not. And so we make an intention to dedicate goodness, to really concentrate it and channel it for the healing, transformation, and peace for all living beings. Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that understanding is the fruit of looking deeply. May you go into this evening looking deeply at the goodness you have generated here. May it fill you with peace and ease. And may you bring that into your lives, into the world, for more ease and more peace. Thank you so much for your practice, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.